In this video, we are talking all about Avatar coming to the Disneyland Resort, but we are reacting to Dave from Fresh Baked. He made a great video the other day. We're going to break it down, react to it like we do here, OG 55 style, up next on Orange Grove 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of Orange Grove 55. We are talking all about Avatar coming to the Disneyland Resort. We are reacting to a Fresh Baked video from the other day. We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. But before we do that, I want to introduce the one, the only, the amazing, the Italiano host of our Citrus Corner show here on the channel. George, welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, and yeah, can't wait to dive in to talk some more Avatar and Pandora. It should be very interesting. I think a lot of people are, still discussing it from when they dropped that piece of concept art during the shareholders meeting. So there's a lot of speculation, opinions, thoughts. It's always a great conversational piece.
Yeah, no, I know. They give you just enough with this stuff to get the imagination and the juices kind of flowing, but not a whole lot to really like hang your hat on, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
It's like just enough. But there's a reason for it. We're going to talk about that in this video, actually. There's a reason why they're being kind of vague with this stuff. So let's go ahead. I'm going to bring Mr. Fresh Baked onto the scene. And let's go ahead and play. And George, again, if there's anything you want me to stop at, let me know. I'll stop it. We'll talk about it, and we'll, break it down.
You got it.
It was Disney's annual shareholders meeting, and within minutes, all hell broke loose. We were expecting news about Bob Iger's victory over the barbarians at the gate, but instead...
Barbarians at the gate. Strong language from Dave.
Yep.
Wow.
I was actually surprised at that myself when I heard it. I'm like, Dave with the quips.
Woo. Woo.
Iger shook the theme park world with this. That's concept art for the Avatar experience promised for the Disneyland Resort. Check that. Per Bob Iger, that's creative inspiration for a possible new destination at the Disneyland Resort. Fascinating choice of words for something they've been teasing for well over a year now. And we're going to tell you what those words mean. We're going to tell you what this concept art means and what this statement from Josh D'Amaro means. And we're going to do it with practical, thoughtful, objective thought processes. The real meaning of all of this from our point of view. And with that, the first disclaimer that I want to make is something that we already touched on, that Bob Iger himself has described us as creative inspiration for a possible new destination. In other words, this isn't a firm statement about a thing that they are going to build. In other words, whatever this Avatar experience winds up being, if it ever does become a being, there's a very likely chance it's not going to look like this. Something similar, to be sure. It will look Pandora-y, because of course it will. Avatar is Avatar. But don't go looking for too many clues or Easter eggs in this concept art. That's basically what I'm saying, even though that's exactly what we're going to do right now, because I admit it's fun and there's lots of things to be seen in this art. This is most definitely inspired by the sequel, The Way of Water. The entire scene here is centered and balanced around that large body of water in the middle, and then an even larger body of water in the rear of the art.
Okay, so we didn't really talk about this, George. We didn't, Dave really kind of breaks this artwork down, which is really cool. There is an ocean behind this. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, I think this is kind of where the creative inspirations come in. I think this is just for the sake of the artwork. I don't think there's going to be any body of water back there. I think what we're looking at here is the land, and whatever is behind there is going to be either like backstage or something else. Obviously they can't build, and Dave even brings it up in this video later on, but you can't build an ocean back there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't, this half up here, I think we're probably going to get something close. I respectfully disagree with Dave. I think that we're going to get something very, very close to what we're seeing. But the stuff in the far background, I think it's filler stuff just to kind of sell the art. But what do you think, George?
Yeah, I agree. I did notice it back there, but yeah, I didn't really think anything of two shakes of a lamb's tail about it. It's just, it's just using that as like the concept of like, you have like all that extra, water part of Pandora that could actually be maybe infused into the ride itself, right? Because of where the location that it looks like for the actual attraction that you're going to maybe take off into the waters of Pandora. They kind of like showcase it of like where that location is. But yeah, everything to the front of the concept piece, I believe, is what they're mainly like kind of going off. And I do agree with Dave where it's like, obviously the first piece of concept art is never going to be the exact replica of what we're going to get. Things change, things alter. But I do feel like that Iger had only mentioned possible destination of Pandora just because of the notion of waiting for Disneyland Forward.
That exactly, George. You hit the nail on the head, brother. This is not Iger's statements about possible and about all that stuff, that kind of like that what if stuff, isn't necessarily for the fans. He's speaking to the city of Anaheim. Because remember, the city of Anaheim in like 2 weeks is voting on Disneyland Forward. So what they're doing is they're using this as leverage to get that, to kind of push Anaheim into approving it. There's no coincidence that we got this at the annual shareholder meeting. Okay, they could have released this, in a month or two or whatever. They released it now because they're putting pressure on the city of Anaheim. Hey, go ahead and approve it. And what you do is you release the artwork, you get fans attached to the idea of this coming to the resort. And now if Anaheim knocks down Disneyland Forward, well, what happens then? Then fans get pissed off at Anaheim. Well, we wanted this Pandora thing and now Anaheim is standing in our way. It's a really smart move on Disney's part. But the possible language isn't because this is actually, I'm going to defend Daddy Josh here and Iger. Mm-hmm. We are critical of Daddy Josh. The maybe blue sky stuff gets annoying. Okay. We've complained about it ad nauseum here on the channel. But this in particular situation is not that. This is Disney using their leverage to get this, to push the city into approving something. And they're saying possible because they want to push them into that. And also they're saying possible because in the slim chance that they don't approve it, the plans will have to change. Obviously, this is a sizable thing, and they need Disneyland Forward to do this project. So if it doesn't get approved, they probably won't be able to do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you're seeing all this kind of like iffy language. Okay. It's not the same thing though that we saw with Tomorrow with some other projects. This is a different animal, but.
And yeah. I do believe Imagineer Scott Trowbridge took to his Instagram, I believe, and he also mentioned the same thing about Disneyland Forward. So I believe he did in his statement. But yeah, Josh D'Amaro, Iger, you see all those key words with Disneyland Forward, and so they're kind of like throwing it out there to say, if this gets approved by the Anaheim City Council, we can move forward with this. And I think it was a great kind of move on Disney's part to kind of put the spotlight on Anaheim to say, okay, our fans, our guests, are expecting something to this caliber. Right. Now it's all on you.
It's all on you. So it's a leverage game. It's a leverage game.
As in an ocean, which we're going to get to. One thing to observe here is that this may or may not be representative of the entire land. Actually, to be precise, this hasn't even been defined as a land, but as an experience. Whether or not there is more may depend on the true scale of what we're seeing here in this snapshot. As in, is this scene on the left or this scene on the right? Are those show buildings, attractions, or are they just scenery for just the one and only obvious attraction in the middle, that boat right there? That's some kind of water ride, of course, probably slow moving.
Now, we've heard a lot of rumors, even long before this concept art came out, that this attraction is going to be the Shanghai Disneyland Pirates attraction. So it's interesting that we heard those rumors for a couple months now, and here we go. We get artwork with a boat.
Yep.
It's looking like it's going to be some version of that pirate attraction at Shanghai.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Especially with the scope of Pandora and how James Cameron is a stickler with his projects and what have you, and the use of newer technology and how to incorporate that into his stories, into his characters, into his world. I can't imagine them just doing another simple boat ride like Navi River Journey.
Yeah, I don't think so. And that big mountain on the right, he was asking, like, is that like a show building or is that just like a facade? I think that's the show building probably for this big boat thing.
I agree. Yeah.
Guests are seated rather calmly, enjoying the beautiful views. Welcome to Pandora. Isn't it lovely? But judging by the scale of the set pieces versus the guests drawn into the concept art, this does look to be a very large space. And therefore, what we're seeing can be considered fairly decent representation of the entirety of the land, at least something that they're imagining. And again, remember, disclaimer, all of this is pure conjecture. This concept art should not be taken literally. It is creative inspiration for a possible new destination. So we've got this people mover-like attraction in the middle.
I mean, he's right to that. I would even go a step further, though. I think you should always take every piece of concept art with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, because, you know, a lot of fans seem to think concept art are, you know, they're blueprints. It's not, you know. And I mean, to be honest, every piece of concept art is kind of like an inspirational piece. You know, you rarely ever get an exact, you know what I'm saying? So he's right. You shouldn't get mentally married to every detail in this artwork. You know, things are going to change. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that goes for any company. I mean, when you look at the Universal artwork too, it should be the same thing. That these pieces of art are really there to kind of invoke like the general vibe and overall essence of these attractions and of these lands. It's not meant to be a literal interpretation, verbatim, brick by brick. You know, so
exactly.
Yeah.
Middle of the land, more like Jungle Cruise actually. 3 boats in the picture. Nope, there's 4. We got 4 boats. 2 bridges going over the ride path of those boats with guests walking over them. That suggests that guests are, you know, definitely going to be exploring the entirety of this space that's in front of us.
Pods handles the driving.
Oh man, here we go.
Store your things until you're ready. Then we deliver to your.
Okay, actually, before we continue with Dave, I want to ask you, George.
Yeah.
Because we're hearing rumors about this is going to go into the Hollywood backlot. This is going to go where Monsters, PhilharMagic, Hollywood and Dine, and that bus load unload area, right? It's about 6 acres. That whole the whole kit and caboodle, which is about half of the animal kingdom Pandora, which I believe is about 12 acres.
Correct.
This thing,
this does not look 6 acres.
No, dude. Look, man. And like Dave said, it's a concept art. I get it, but I do think that this is going to be pretty close to what we get. I think, you know, I don't think it's going to be drastically off. I can't see this fitting in 6 acres, dude.
No,
there's just no way. There's no way. So based on this art, I'm kind of leaning more towards the symbol lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I actually am too. And actually, Dave touches upon that notion. There is another suggestion he throws in there, which I still don't think it would fit in there as well. But he does mention the symbol lot. That's where I think it's going to go. And I think that's why it's heavily pressed for Disneyland Forward.
Yeah, our boy Michael Eva, a contributor here on OG55, was saying that in the DMs, like, hey guys, I don't think it's going into Hollywoodland. Eva might be right, dude, because based on this artwork, this is a beast, bro. This is big. This isn't 6 acres.
Bridges are taking guests to either of the 2 very large sets on the left and right of the frame. Best guess is an E ticket on the right. That seems to be the larger of the 2 buildings, and then maybe something like a D ticket on the left. Note the guests walking on that rocky path behind the waterfall. First, I hope they don't fall. There's no guardrails. But 2,
where's OSHA?
Are they going into that place? That seems likely, and that would suggest again that is a destination, whatever's in that.
And just look at the scale, though, bro. Like the scale of this thing is massive when you take into the account of the people and everything, right?
And that's another disclaimer too, in a sense, where it's like when you say, okay, the piece of concept art may not be the same, which it may change, but the aesthetic pleasing of the land itself, you're going to get exactly what you see because James Cameron won't take anything less.
No, he's not going to go for a cheap ass thing, dude. Yeah, exactly. Like it might not be identical to this, but it's not going to be, you know, like like a Pixar Pier like level thing, or a San Francisco even. This thing is going to be significant, and the details might change here and there, but the overall quality will be there for sure with him involved, especially.
Absolutely.
Space is a destination and attraction. Over on the left, guests are much more clearly walking into and out of that space. It has to be some kind of attraction, maybe a live show. It certainly is giving a sort of theater type vibe, is it not? We'll stop here and say that if this is the extent of the Avatar experience, I'm good. This is great.
Yeah, me too.
This is actually very, very good. 3 attractions, or actually, I'm thinking maybe it's possible 2. I'm thinking maybe that D ticket space could be the queue for the the loading area for that boat ride. But even if that's the case, still 2 is great. I think we've come to expect now in the modern theme park world, especially with Disney, that a land is typically going to be 2 attractions. If you're lucky, you get a third, but certainly not more than that. So I feel like this is the complete picture that we're getting, assuming that those 2 spaces are attractions. Whatever the case may be, this looks beautiful. This looks absolutely beautiful. I 100% do I want that in my park. And I know that I'm going to love it because I've already been to Pandora, and that's beautiful. And if they can even just come close to that, I'll be very happy. Back to the concept art, and one thing this art has included, as we mentioned before, is an ocean, which is a bold statement, if you ask me. Of course, I realize this is concept art, and they aren't really going to build an ocean. Very likely just using some kind of creative license.
Yeah, it's creative license. Dave is right on that. And it's also to sort of, it's not giving you any point of reference. So if they were to put the Matterhorn behind there, for example, or something, because or you put Mission Breakout far off in the distance, you're gonna know what park it's in and stuff. So they got to fill it in with the fluff, so you have no idea where this is going. You know what I'm saying?
They have to get rid of those sight lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like there are no X-Wings flying in and out of Galaxy's Edge. But wouldn't it be cool if they could find some way to provide some forced perspective to simulate that ocean, that space in the rear of that concept art? Then use, something like some high pressure water cannons to simulate waves crashing up against the back of the land there. That would be convincing and spectacular. Finally, the first impression I got when looking at this art is that I could not form in my mind an idea of where this imaginary place could exist in the Disneyland Resort as we know it. Certainly not in Tomorrowland, certainly not in the Hollywood backlot. But Grizzly Peak, you've got something there. That's something, it's the most logical place to put it. And that's something we've talked about in a previous video. It makes the most sense if you're going to put it somewhere and you're going to try to incorporate the existing Disneyland space, into Avatar.
Really quick.
That was always.
I think for me, if it's not going to fit in Hollywood Land, it's definitely not going to fit in Grizzly Peak, just because where that piece of land is located, it's kind of landlocked with the other lands,
right?
So you can't really have a lot of leadway. You're going to be kind of like crunched into where you can put these locations, especially if you're going to have 2 massive show buildings, if that's what is shown in the concept art.
Right. And then you're not adding capacity, because now you're reusing Grizzly Peak, you're reusing you're reusing Soarin'. So it's like a wash again. Like, that's not good. And we he goes over it in this video, but it shows, like, Daddy Josh makes a statement saying they need Disneyland Forward to do this project. They're waiting for Disneyland Forward. Well, if they're just going to retheme Grizzly Peak, they don't need Disneyland Forward for that.
Exactly.
So it's clearly not going there. And I never thought it was, because you're dealing with James Cameron here. People have to remember that in this equation. This is not going to be San Francisco. You know what I'm saying? Because this is something that, like, Cameron's involved. He's going to want nothing but the best, dude. It's like J.K. Rowling with Universal. You know what I'm saying? This guy's going to demand quality, and it's going to be A+ top shelf. Absolutely. And retheming Grizzly Peak ain't going to be it.
Nope.
If they were going to use the existing space and reskin it into Avatar, what's in this concept art, what we're seeing here, would have to be built from scratch, from the ground up. Nothing in this art looks like it had its origins, its beginnings, in something that exists at Disneyland today, which to me, that really shouts Disneyland Forward. It shouts the Simba parking lot, the downtown Disney parking lot, or even, yes, the Toy Story parking lot. But if they put the Avatar experience in Grizzly Peak, and what we talked about in the past was putting Flight of Passage in Soarin', makes sense. You put Navi River Journey at the Little Mermaid attraction, makes a lot of sense. And then you incorporate Grizzly River Run into some sort of Way of Water, water-based, water-themed attraction. It all is very logical. It makes a lot of sense. But if they did do that, then it's not going to look like that.
Right.
Sorry, it's just not possible. There's no way that they could turn Grizzly Peak into that concept art. Check that.
Yeah.
It's possible.
And he's right. If you're going to retheme Grizzly Peak to that degree to make it look like that art, then you might as well bulldoze the whole thing and just rebuild it. Because that's what you're essentially doing at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no way that you can. It's not like you're using Play-Doh and you can like maneuver like the shape of like the fact of that mountain. Yeah, you would have to literally demolish that completely to the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, since you're rebuilding it, you might as well put it in another spot, and you might as well keep Grizzly Peak. So it's not going there. It's probably. God, I keep going back and forth on this because it's like it's tough, man. I keep hearing from credible sourcing that it's going into Hollywood land, but then I'm looking at this artwork going, how is that going to fit in that space?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be Simba, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, especially as I said, that cuts. If they're saying that it meets the quality to the Pandora in Animal Kingdom,
then it has to go there, dude.
It has to go, because if you have 12 acres of Pandora, but then you're going to cut that in half for DCA, that's going to look scrunched, and the quality is going to dip.
That's true. That's true, man. It's going to be really pretty small.
But I just don't see Disney doing it. Again, I can definitely see them putting the Avatar experience in Grizzly Peak. I could see them doing that. But if they did, it's going to look like something else. It's not going to look like that concept art.
Right.
And by that, I mean, it's not going to look this good. This looks too good to be something that was reskinned for something that exists. We know this. We have all this experience telling us that Disney is not capable of reskinning an existing attraction and making it look as good as that concept art.
And that's not, and like I said, that's not reskinning, dude. That's completely destroying and rebuilding at that point.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a reskin. It's not even recognizable at that point. Like,
no.
You know, I mean, like even like, for example, DCA, when they converted the entrance to Buena Vista Street, a lot of people say that was reskinned. I have to push back on that. It was not reskinned. They took those buildings down to the steel beams. Okay. Mm-hmm. I remember the construction of that. They took those buildings down to the steel beams. They built that from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? And when you're demolishing that much and you can't even make heads or tails of what was there before, it's not a reskin. You know, Mission Breakout's a reskin. You can still make out the shape of the building and everything.
Exactly.
Like you know, the Pacific Wharf, that's a reskin, you know? But this thing, no way. And Cameron ain't going to put up with that.
So with that, here's another big clue that tells us that they're leaning towards putting this in Disneyland Forward as opposed to, let's say, Grizzly Peak. At the same time that news was breaking, that Bob Iger had revealed this concept art during the annual shareholders meeting, at that same time, Josh D'Amaro pops into the Disney Parks blog, and he's got something to say as well. Per Josh D'Amaro, we were thrilled to unveil a piece of inspirational artwork developed for a potential new Avatar experience at the Disneyland Resort. Potential. That word speaks for itself, right?
Here we go.
Gotta love this.
This video is not sponsored by Dyson, okay? Yes. Not sponsored by Dyson. Here we go.
Excited about the stories our guests could experience, not will, but could experience at Walt's original theme park destination after approval of Disneyland Forward.
See, that's what I'm saying. After the approval of Disneyland Forward, Disney is talking to the city of Anaheim right now. They're not talking to us nerds, okay? They're talking to Anaheim. They're looking Anaheim right in the eye and say, Anaheim, this is possible if you do what we want, okay? If you sit down and you approve that Disneyland Forward thing. That's what this is all about, dude. And that's why it was released 2 weeks before that vote happened.
Absolutely.
You know, that's exactly what this is. And Dave is right. It shows you if they need the approval It's going somewhere somewhere Disneyland Forward related. So
or something that they would have to maneuver from Disneyland Forward. So even if they did decide to put it in Hollywoodland, you still need Disneyland Forward to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's Hollywoodland or Simba, you still got to get Disneyland Forward. Well said, George. Well said.
Having the chance to experience all new Avatar adventures with a visit to Pandora. Immediately after expressing his excitement about the Avatar experience, he talks about things that can happen after the approval of Disneyland Forward, and including that Avatar experience. Avatar and Disneyland Forward spoken in the same breath. As tells go, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Now, quickly, recalling the concept art for Disneyland Forward, fans have been spending considerable energy trying to decipher that code. But as concept art goes, it is even more unreal than that Avatar concept.
Yes, and Dave is 1,000% correct on this. The Disneyland Forward artwork has frustrated me in the fandom so much. I see people going in there going, oh, well, they put Din Tai Fung there, so that means they can't do Disneyland Forward. Is that... Oh my God, you guys, this is all this is basically like, this is what we possibly could do if Anaheim, you give us the zoning, okay? These are not blueprints. These are very vague, nothing. This is basically just to sell the city on the zoning.
Basically, people are taking this like the Disney Bible, like literally like everything from stem to stern is exactly what we're going to get in Disneyland Forward. Even when they said the possibilities of Frozen, Tangled, Zootopia, Tron, Toy Story, Peter Pan, those are all just ideas that they're throwing out there. That doesn't mean we're going to get every single one of those IPs in there.
Exactly. And they're two different things. Like the Avatar thing is a specific project. So Dave is right. I put a little more weight into that. This was more of an idea, an initiative they're trying to get approved by the city. You know, these are it's not going to look like any of this. Okay. This is like vague whatever to just basically get that zoning from Anaheim. So 100% with Dave on this one.
The Disneyland Forward art was simply a suggestion of what Disney could do and not meant to be taken literally.
Thank you.
No, I do not believe that this is a sign that they've always planned on putting Pandora at Disneyland Forward and in that spot. I'm not even sure if the Avatar experience was in their consciousness when they created that concept.
Fair.
And note that to build Pandora anywhere, be that at Disneyland Forward or in Disneyland Resort proper, the one that exists today, you do need approval from the city. But speaking to it within the scope of Disneyland Forward by making that obvious connection clearly suggests why they're calling Avatar a potential attraction, a possible guest experience. They can't confirm anything. They can't say that anything is or isn't until they get the vote from the Anaheim City Council. Yes. That vote is going to happen in 2 weeks. And I will say that the expectation, I feel like the betting money is that it will be approved, that they will get that vote. And I believe that's why Disney has felt as confident as they have to talk about it as much as they have up until now. But it's also why they haven't said more in that year's time. Further, they can't say anything in this forum specifically, the annual shareholders meeting, because this ain't D23. This is a shareholder.
Right.
What's said in these meetings is strictly monitored by the SEC. Talking about things that they are thinking about doing, something that's supposed to create excitement, that would be something that is considered a forward-looking statement. And Disney is not permitted, any publicly traded company is not permitted to say anything that might artificially create excitement, artificially might create a desire to purchase stock, to inflate the stock price. In other words, they can't say anything that they know that they're not prepared to do, or they can't predict with some sort of reliability. Speaking of which, D23, the timing of this news, this concept art, and of yesterday's news regarding Autopia, that's interesting, especially when you start talking about things that might be discussed at this year's D23 event. If you saw our video yesterday regarding the Autopia news, one thing I mentioned is that if the Autopia comments are legitimate from Disney and are based on an actual future, actual plans, then that means that not only does Disney have a plan for Autopia, they have a plan for Tomorrowland. Nope.
Okay, this is why I respectfully disagree with Dave. I actually have the exact opposite opinion. The electric car thing for Autopia is a sign they have no plan for Tomorrowland. And it's basically like, we're going to just kind of update the cars because we're keeping everything the way it is.
That was initially how I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because I think that like that's a move where it's like big changes aren't coming. You know what I'm saying? Because they're just because how
would they put so much time and effort that if it does change the cars, it means like Autopia is going to be there for a while. So if Autopia is going to be there for a while, you're going to change all the rest of the surrounding land of Tomorrowland, but you're going to leave Autopia.
Yeah, I don't know. And Dave could be right. He could be right, Jordan. I don't know, but I got the exact opposite feeling. I feel like the electric car thing is a band-aid.
Or at least that they're not going to focus on Tomorrowland right now. I think if they were to touch upon Tomorrowland, that's like the last, like on the very bottom of the list.
It is. Yeah, I don't think they're looking at it. I don't, because there's not much incentive. Because the attractions in Tomorrowland still bring a lot of people. You know, Space Mountain brings a lot of people. Buzz Lightyear brings a lot of people. Star Tours brings a lot of people. So there's no incentive because basically Tomorrowland would be essentially, for the most part, an aesthetics fix. With exception to the launch bay, and I get that, but for the most part, it's an aesthetic problem, not a attraction problem.
Exactly, and Disney's not going to want to shut down the whole land yet for that. They're going to want to have other lands and attractions and rides to kind of offset that. So if they do decide to shut down the whole land, there's enough there at Disneyland for people to say, "Hey, this is worth my over $100 price ticket for me to go into while you have this land shut down."
Right. Exactly.
Plan for Tomorrowland means no plan for Autopia, but the reverse is true. If you have a plan for Autopia, that means they have settled on a plan for Tomorrowland. And now we've got something. Today, we have concept art for Avatar. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have a vote from the Anaheim City Council, which is going to be well in advance of the start of D23, well in advance for them to prepare any sort of announcement that they want. This could be a very exciting parks panel, a parks panel that has more hype and more energy since when they announced Galaxy's Edge, and that's something that I'm trying to maintain a level of composure because I have long counseled fans of the parks to curb their enthusiasm when it comes to things coming out of D23. Yeah. I was part of that hype machine early on, but the last couple have really sort of taught me to let's just talk. I'm actually looking forward to seeing if we might actually get something good. And I've heard rumors from other sources that this is Disneyland's year to get something good at D23. Announced, that is. It may still be Blue Sky E, but it's going to be certainly more than because what did we get last? Nothing. We got hardly anything at the last D23. Anyway,
I think it was just.
Thoughts. Where might this land be built? We've already talked a little bit about that. I'm personally ruling out the Hollywood backlot. It's way too small, even if you were to push the boundary out into the bus zone. More importantly, it makes no sense geographically in between Buena Vista Street and Avengers Campus. I mean, I know DCA doesn't live by the same standards as Disneyland, but come on.
But okay, to be fair, Universal Studios Hollywood. They just throw anything in there. Hollywood is a catch-all theme, apparently, even for Universal. They got the Wizarding World next to Nintendo, next to the backlot and all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Look, if they're gonna put it in DCA, I think Hollywoodland makes the most sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because even to the notion, if they were to put it in Grizzly Peak, which obviously I don't think that they're going to. No. Dave was more saying like a hypothetical. He doesn't think so either, but that would be more logistic over Hollywoodland. But at the same time, if you're going to turn to Buena Vista Street and there's Pandora, well, what's going to happen if you leave Pixar Pier? You're going to walk right into Pandora.
That's even more weird, right? Yeah. That's even more weird because at least Hollywood gives you permission to sort of throw a Hollywood movie in there. I know it's flimsy. I know fandom, it's flimsy as hell. I don't like that either, but it certainly makes more sense than Pandora sitting right across, like you said, George, right across from the Carthay, like literally right across from the Carthay, you know what I'm saying? And there's no Hollywood connection to it. That would be very strange. Now, they could do that if they were going to retheme the whole park, if it was going to be Disney Cinematic Adventure. So maybe they could do that. I don't know. Maybe Dave said there's big things possible coming to D23. Maybe a retheme or a new theme for DCA is one of them. That's possible.
New rename. Yeah.
A new name. But the other thing too, if they put it in a simple lot, that still doesn't make a whole lot of sense for DCA, because now it's its own thing outside of the Hollywood theme. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, I guess they can do the whole, like, there's a base in California that you launch and you go and land on Pandora and you have an adventure on Pandora and you come back to Earth. That's the only thing I can really think of that would make any kind of sense, you know? We'll see. I don't know. It's crazy.
There's just no way you can drop Pandora in between those two lands. I mean, can you create anything that even remotely resembles a smooth transition? What are guests going to do? Head down Buena Vista Street, make a left at Carthay Theater, and then run into some space plants? There's just no way. How do you do that? You know, and that's one of the things we talked about in our previous videos, that one of the reasons why Pandora works so well at Animal Kingdom is because Animal Kingdom in itself, the entire park, is home to that kind of environment. It makes they can take their time drawing that transition out from the entrance to Animal Kingdom, and then you make that left and you start heading down that way towards Pandora. It's so easy and smooth to sort of get into the feeling of being in Pandora. You don't have the time to do that. You just don't. You need.
Dave is right on that. Now, he did say that he understands, like, DCA, that it doesn't play by the same rules in terms of, like, theme stuff, like consistency and stuff. And he's right. And that's disappointing to me. I wish the Imagineers would take the same amount of love, or Disney. I don't know. I don't want to blame it on the Imagineers. It might just be Burbank. I don't know. I have no idea. But this park sits in the shadow of Walt's theme park, Disneyland. Mm-hmm. It's like, can we not? It should be the same standard as Disneyland, though.
You would think, but it seems like even from its conception, it's like almost like they built it, but yet to not give it the same quality standards or TLC that you would for Disneyland. That's literally right across the way from it.
It makes no sense, man. It's like having a beautiful mansion, and then just like throwing a bunch of trash on your lawn and be like, well, it's not my house, it's just my lawn. Well, no, but your lawn is right in front of your house. You know what I'm saying? Like, take pride in your lawn. It's sitting right in front of your house. You know, Disneyland, yeah, it's beautiful. It's the pride and joy and the crown jewel, the whole thing. It's Walt's baby, whatever. That's cool. DCA sits just feet away from that. So it's the same. It should have the same level of quality, you know. Unfortunately, Dave is right. Time and time again, they seem not to care as much. I hope they put whatever they do for Avatar and DCA, whatever way they kind of tie this in. Please, Disney, make it make sense. Please make it work. Don't just shoehorn that in and don't give any explanation as to why it's there. That would be horrible. Yeah. DCA deserves better.
Absolutely.
A much bigger space. And it needs to be a little more disconnected from the rest of the park than the Hollywood backlot is. Now, make no mistake, it's going to be difficult no matter where they put it, because, again, Animal Kingdom is a difficult standard to come to. But that's just impossible. The Hollywood backlot is just impossible. I also do not think it will be Tomorrowland. There was a time when I thought they could put some kind of Avatar experience there, but only if it were more of a sort of a virtual experience, as in we're on Earth in Tomorrowland. It's future-y, right? And there's
and Dave said there was a time where he thought it was going to be like a virtual experience, and that's the thing I want to really emphasize with this project is, as fans, we speculate. I speculated on many videos that I thought it would go in the Autopia motorboat submarine area. I thought that was a beautiful spot for it because it's a perfect transition from Tomorrow to Fantasy. Plus, we saw Scott Trowbridge him tweeting out a picture of the motorboat lagoon saying Disneyland will never be finished. So it was an educated guess.
Right.
But it's that, though. I don't work for Disney. It's a guess. You know what I'm saying? And I was wrong, apparently, because Autopia is getting an update with these electric cars. Dave was saying he thought it was going to be a virtual thing. I think as fans, we're all kind of spitballing here. We're all trying to figure it out. We'll see what it ends up being at the end of the day and who comes the closest. But it's looking more and more like that symbol up. But we'll see. We could all be totally wrong.
Yeah.
It's this place that we know of now in the future that's far away on a different planet. And you go into a building like Innovations and you get transported to Pandora from there. Be that you simulate some sort of flight there, or maybe you just make in an exhibit in the Innovations building, and you say, here, take a look at this. This is what Pandora would be like if you were to go there today. Now, that was the only way I feel like you could have put this in Tomorrowland. But this concept art throws that idea straight out the window. So now you're looking at putting Pandora in the space that is currently occupied by Autopia, which many have suggested. Some are actually rooting for because people hate Autopia. That's something that people have suggested they'd be rooting for.
There we go.
Of course.
Here we go. Hold on.
And that could have been a possibility, maybe a thin possibility, but again, that gets thrown right out the window with the news from yesterday.
Yep.
That Disney is seemingly confirming that the Autopia vehicles are going to be electric in the next couple of years. And they're not going to do that. They're not going to put the time, effort, and budget into turning Autopia into electric if they had plans to turn it into Pandora. They simply would not. It's the dumbest idea ever. So if they were to put it in Pandora, either the Autopia story that just got published yesterday is BS, or somebody forgot to put golf carts way of water concept art. Bottom line is both things can't be true, so it's not going to be Tomorrowland.
No.
So again, that leaves us with Grizzly Peak and maybe a B- version of that concept art, or that concept art more fully realized, a more complete land, a more finished, drawn from scratch land in Disneyland Forward. I'm hoping for the latter. Last thing, what about time? What kind of timeline are we talking about? I think we'll be experiencing the Way of Water in no less than 7 years. It can happen sooner only if Disney already has complete-ish plans and specs, money to build it, and an available construction window, meaning there's no competition from any other confirmed projects. We know that Disney does not like to do major construction projects at the same time, notwithstanding Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain. As we've discussed previously, they didn't have a choice on that one. They had a choice about Splash, but they didn't have a choice about Haunted Mansion. But you're not going to see them build new Tomorrowland, Avatar, Pandora, and the Eastern Gateway, the new parking structure, all at the same time. They simply are. That's just not their way. That's not how they do it. My money is on first, the parking structure, the Eastern Gateway, which also requires approval from the city of Anaheim, the city council. 2, Avatar, and then 3, Tomorrowland, because Tomorrowland is always the one that gets kicked down the road. That's just the history of things.
Yeah.
And there you go. That is our most logical, reasonable, and objective thoughts on.
Yeah, great video by Dave. I will obviously linked in the description down below his full video. Great stuff, and yeah, I mean, very well thought out, theories and what have you in regards to this. But what are your closing thoughts on this, George? What are you thinking, man?
Yeah, I mean, there are some things I disagree with Dave on as far as like opinion wise, but he's made a lot of true points to it. I feel like, and they keep on using the key terms of Disneyland Forward, which means it's not going to go in a placement that, as you said earlier, that is not going to require Disneyland Forward, obviously. A lot of people are still saying Hollywoodland, but yeah, it just doesn't look the right possible size if you want to get that big of a scope, or if you just want to shoehorn it and kind of have it like squeezed in like Cinderella's stepsister with the glass slipper,
right.
Then
because how are you going to fit? You're going to have to fit. A big chunk of that's going to be a giant show building.
It's going to be a massive show building, not even just based off of the concept art, but the type of ride that they want to put in. Because if it's going to be designed like the Shanghai Pirates ride with the ride system, that show building is massive. So it has to kind of be in a location where it's kind of offset, where you're not just going to see like a giant building like interrupting everything else. And I feel like that can still be if they put it in Hollywoodland. So my money is definitely on the Simba lot, or if not, part of the Toy Story parking lot, which would then beg the question, is it actually going to be for a third gate?
That would be wild, bro. that would be crazy, because that would explain the dodginess of why they're not saying what park it's going into, because they haven't announced a third gate yet, so they don't want to tell you that yet. So that would explain the kind of like, you know, Disneyland Resort. You know, they've been weird about this. Like, why don't they just tell us what park?
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
what's
with the runaround? It's like at first it's Disneyland. No, but it's Disneyland Resort. Oh, it's DCA. No, we're retracting that. You know, it's back to Disneyland. Oh, but we mean Disneyland Resort. Like, it's like,
I know
when they used Avatar for the first time, it was like just point blank. It's going in Animal Kingdom. Like,
right, exactly. In Galaxy's Edge, it was Disneyland. Like on the announcement day.
What is making this so different?
Why so secretive? They clearly know where it's going because they need to get the Disneyland Forward approval stuff. So They know where it's going. Clearly, they have to know. They have the guy, John, what's his name? John, what was the Avatar producer? John Landau?
John Landau.
He was at Imagineering a couple months ago. I mean, he wasn't there to just twiddle his thumbs and do nothing. Obviously, they were figuring it all out. They know an idea of where this thing is going. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why won't they just say it? It's weird. Like at D23 in 2015, Bob Iger got on that stage and said, we're not building one, we're building two. One right here in Disneyland in Anaheim and another one in Hollywood Studios. Almost verbatim. That's how he said it on the announcement. But this thing is like so dodgy, bro. And that's why it could be the third park. But it's like, are they really going to do a third park already?
Yeah. Disney, they love to give us those, the runaround with the riddles and the Easter eggs and like all the conspiracy theories. And it's like the what ifs, the maybes. It's like, oh, man.
It's crazy, bro. But it was a pleasure, as always, talking shop with you, Italiano. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And a big thank you and shout out to Dave from Fresh Baked that this recording was possible to do. So definitely big thank you to him.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I will link his video down in the description down below. So make sure you check out the entire video because it's not just about the Avatar stuff. There's like another half hour of content on that video. So make sure you check it out. And yeah, again, thank you to Dave for Fresh Baked and the Italiano. Thank you for joining me today. Everybody at home, thank you for watching today. Comment down below with all your thoughts of what we discussed. What are your opinions on this Avatar experience and the whole thing? We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
세상은 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.